Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Kenneth Chester, nationally syndicated automotive journalist, tech communicator, CEO of Tech Mobility Productions, and has a media career spanning over 3 decades. Ken has been a leading voice at the intersection of mobility, technology, AI, personal privacy, and climate impact. So we'll explore with him how AI is quietly transforming mobility, what climate policies mean for vehicle innovation, and why water, renewable energy, and your daily commute are more connected than you think. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Ken. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about AI, we'll talk about privacy, and we'll also understand the future of mobility from you. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Very good. I have been a writer and producer for about 35, going on 40 years now, starting in the automotive industry, which I still do write about transportation, but I've expanded that to cover the increasingly intertwined world of technology. For writing vehicle reviews for newspapers in the 1990s and 2000s, I expanded to radio about 10 years ago, and we started talking about all sorts of things. I'm a curious sort, so I read a lot of industry journals, everything from progressive railroading to Waterworld to electric journals to think tank white papers, in order to come up with the information that I like to share with my audience. So that nowadays, of course, would include AI, personal privacy, climate change, regulatory conditions around the world, and how manufacturers and individuals might or can respond to what's going on right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. What's going on right now? That's the big question also to you, Ken. What's going on right now? What is it that you want to you want to tell the world with what you are doing, what you are saying in your podcast, everywhere
else? Climate change is real, period. That the short-sighted policies of one country should not and cannot dictate a global response to what is actually happening. You can't put 40 billion tons of greenhouse gases in the air and not expect the climate to change. It's going to take all of us, and all of the technology that we're looking at has a role to play. With the role of AI, there's a question of the increased computing power that it needs. And there's going to be a fallout that people don't see coming relative to that. They see the last 3 years, for example, in how AI has changed the world. But like every other major technology before it, there will be a correction, a backlash, a right sizing. AI will continue to be an important part of our world, but not at the rate that it's currently going, because typically industry and consumers go all or nothing. That causes a problem and a readjustment and a taking a look at things. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. All I got to say is, in addition to climate change is real. Anybody, even those members of your audience that are listening right now that say, I would never, ever use AI. If you are interacting with a computer, you are already using AI. The systems are infused with it. Pretty much everything that you interact with that is online has some level of AI technology already infused in it. So you're using it whether you are in favor or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what choice does an individual has, especially when a lot of population in a lot of parts of the world still have, do not have a mobile phone, do not have, a proper way of the way a lot of people are looking, they are not able to look at it, but they are getting also impacted by it. So you can't expect them to suddenly come into a debate and all. So I want to understand then whose responsibility it is to understand things correctly and also explain things correctly, because a lot of these very people are also employed, either willingly or unwillingly. Also they are employed and benefiting from such, actions, whichever way you want to be. And the rest of the people who are profiting for it, do you think they will anyway listen to it? Because it's a easy thing. You own some technology and you are the king of the universe. Help us
Mm.
understand from that perspective. Either way, even in climate change, everyone has their own opinion. It is a big industry. Both sides are a big industry in today's time. So I want to understand, where do you see the solution for this?
Oh my goodness. What you just asked would probably take 3 days to answer because there's so many moving parts. So let's unpack a little of it. There are 7 billion people on this planet. And obviously you currently live in one of the largest, and I'm not sure, might have surpassed China now as
Yes,
the
yes,
country
we
with the
did last
largest
year.
population in the world. The challenges are that you're talking about human nature, you're talking about history, you're talking about environment, you're talking about experience, many different experiences of many different countries of thousands of years. And unfortunately, we're not going to solve all that with any kind of technology. What you will see, though, I believe, is what I call creeping economics. And here's what I mean. Over the period of history, at least in the United States since 1750, you see a country or a people get a certain level of technology. That technology grows a middle class over time. The materials or the knowledge that they've gained, at least at the low end, where how they got into it, now becomes too expensive to produce. So that low cost commodity business goes to the next low cost country. The advantages of that, and you could include Korea, China, Japan, now Vietnam, Cambodia, and now even some countries in the African diaspora in Africa are benefiting from that. First, if you're making screws or you're making some commodity product, where a rising mechanized country, it's too expensive to produce it there. So they'll move it to the next lower cost country. The lower cost country, and really you talk about a masterclass, China has been a masterclass in how to take that basic technology and leapfrog over time. There's so much to talk about there, but bottom line is this. You're never going to totally get rid of all the inequities in the world. Sudan being an example, Sudan, South Sudan, that's been going on for decades. And, until the world decides, and I don't see that ever happening because so many people have so many different agendas that are important to them that are often not aligned with other agendas. The challenge we're going to have is that we're always going to have folks that are struggling, countries that are not on it. And honestly, those countries struggling to get into that middle class, into that mechanized class, are probably going to have the greatest opportunity. The cheapest way out is to go the way that all the other countries gone, which is coal and oil and add to the environment and cause a problem. Those countries that have some further sight can literally leapfrog that. And that is where the Western industrialized countries can help, rather than take them from an agrarian environment to the dirty middle of becoming industrialized. They can get the advantage of what industrialized countries have already been through and go perhaps from an agronomy or agricultural environment to a basic technology environment. And that could benefit everybody, but it takes commitment, it takes money, it takes foresight, and it takes something like perhaps the UN or some sort of national or global organization that has a vested interest in pulling up all boats and helping everyone to come up. The opportunity is there. I'm not convinced that the intestinal fortitude necessary and the leadership necessary is currently available in the world right now.
Absolutely. So, with the level of, you see, debate in around artificial intelligence, with the level of debate about climate change, with the level of situation, if you see in terms of individual privacy, do you think it is easy to define anything in terms of black and white? With AI, people say you have to know about it, otherwise you will be left behind. With climate change, you already understand, people are saying it is all a hoax, some people are saying it is real. Amidst all this thing, that debate, now people have come down to something called net zero. But the world is not changing. People who have to travel in their private jets are still doing it. And the ground person is being told, listen, you don't use your vehicle the way you are using. If they had managed, they would have said walk barefoot and we will use our jet planes. And in terms of other stuff also, if you see, everywhere there is almost like a hypocritical saying, so that people who they want to impact or who they want to control, they will just keep on lecturing them. It is like a person whose stomach is full, he is lecturing a hungry person about food security and everything else, and to save food grains and everything else. Help us understand that, because you talked about UN. UN is already the state of United Nations. You already see it. So where is the hope? Another thing is, when you talk about mobility, you see there is one class which is looking at space as the new frontier, space as the place for data centers. On the ground, it's a different world altogether. They will be the ones who will, almost be left behind. They're talking of orbital reefs in space for those people who can pay. They will move out of their of these environmental problems or climate change that was created by these people. You have been a journalist for many years. You understand how these things work. Almost like a garbage bin which will be left behind on Earth. And the rich who has got that capacity, they will have the options to choose where they want to stay. Where do you see mobility for an individual who has no say in anything? Where do you think they will have to go off grid and then fight in another way?
Oh my! Again, centuries of conversation right there. We didn't get here in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We've got here really over hundreds of years. Here is one thing that the market and the world have to come to grips with that I really think will change the equation. ByteDance in China has developed low-cost AI for a fraction, I mean a fraction, of what the big companies, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, all of them, are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to develop. Investors are starting to ask hard questions. Why are you spending $100 million just to verify your systems when ByteDance developed a whole large language model for $6 million? How do I justify continuing to give you that kind of money? And that's a hard question. I really think that part of the answer that you seek is, I mean, there are a lot of little success stories that get ignored. Let me give another example. In California, something happened I thought I would never see in my life. I've often lamented on my radio show that what I would love as an individual in this digital world is to have one site where I can go in and tell all big data, here's my profile, here's what I want, here's what I'll let you do, here's what I don't want you to do. And that one site, and it covers everything, my whole digital signature in the big data world. California's passed a law to do just that. So there's that. There are other organizations that are taking climate change very seriously. There are other investors in little places that are betting on the future in developing countries. Developing countries have decided no longer to wait on the industrialized world to find their way. And because of technology and because of the falling price of technology, they're using it in different ways to grow in ways that they didn't even see 5, 10, 20 years ago. We haven't even begun to talk about autonomous vehicles. We haven't begun to talk about the real crisis of water across the world, both the lack of it and too much. In the northeast part of the United States here over the weekend where I grew up, for the first time ever, they got snow in excess of 30 inches. That has never happened ever. In the United States, we've got flooding inside the country where streams that have never flooded overrunning their banks and taking whole towns with them. There are solutions. There are steps. No, we're not going to correct this. It's going to take everybody. It's going to take decades. But there are signs. I don't think that an individual has roll over and play dead, so to speak, because they feel they cannot make a difference in their community. But it's going to take a community to force change at a local level, and that is around the world. And if enough of us do it, then we can force change up the stream, up the ladder. Part of that's political. If your local leaders are not taking what you value seriously, if you happen to live in a democracy where you can still vote, vote them out. Win folk that are more in line with what you want to accomplish. Ask hard questions. A bigger risk to us right now, when you look at technology, is the growth of deepfakes and how AI has actually supercharged that to where you can take literally my language, my voice, and replicate me, look, voice, and all. And it would be very, very hard to tell the difference. It's that good. Misinformation is probably the biggest risk to everything you just mentioned around the world. People cannot assume that where they've been getting their information forever is still the right place to do it. You need to be educated. You need to go out into the world and verify everything, particularly if it's major pertaining to you, to make sure what you're being told is the truth. And sometimes that requires going far and beyond what you're used to in terms of information. That's probably the biggest thing of everything, is find the truth, know what you're dealing with, take action accordingly.
Absolutely, Ken. Find the truth, take action accordingly. So people say generally that journalists tend to become cynical with time. And you have been a journalist for many years. Are you a optimistic journalist or or not so optimistic journalist? How do you see this all shaping out? And also, you're peeping into the future. What are these people with so much of high-end artificial intelligence? Where is it that they want to reach? Before creating something, they do have some vision. A vehicle has a vision. This is the place I want to use it for going from place A to B to C to D. Where is it that these people want to take us?
AI, like any other new technology, is all about helping those that have riches get richer. If you're a corporation, you're eliminating processes, you're eliminating cost. Cost is typically people. I've talked about stories where those beginning rungs for people just out of college, just out of high school, looking to get started in a company, learn, grow, and develop. AI is eliminating those lower rungs, which is laying the groundwork for a really big problem. It always gets down to the money. Consumers are going to vote with their dollars. In other words, if you can use AI to give me something of equal quality for less money, I'm going to buy that. That's human behavior. I want to get the most I can get for as least as I can spend. and that transcends wherever you are. Part of that's necessity. If you are a working family and you have fixed income, you have to go accordingly. If you're older folks on a fixed income, you're going to react accordingly. That's going to stampede you into lower cost solutions, which tends to feed the beast. I think that as a journalist, yes, I'm cynical. And in some areas, I've gotten more cynical over time, but I have to also balance that cynicism with some hope. I can't say that everything is horrible and everything is negative. I use a lot of tech in my daily activities, which has allowed me to leverage knowledge and leverage reach in ways that I could not have done 30 years ago when I started out, which makes me more effective, not less. I think technology can help, is part of the answer. I think that the falling cost of technology is what is going to help a lot of people who are lower income or disadvantaged or underserved, or will get a foothold that you otherwise couldn't, because the gatekeepers kept those assets from you in the past. Much the same way the printing press democratized reading and information in the 1400s, much the same way the internet has introduced us to the world. Your 3 keystrokes from anywhere in the entire world in real time, 24/7. The fact that that technology and that information is now available to anybody with any kind of access, it's a level of access. And with the growing number of satellites and broadband and all of this, there's hope out there. So I'm cynically hopeful. I think is probably the best way to define that. I believe it was attributed to one of our presidents, but I believe someone else said it. But I believe this: trust but verify.
Trust but verify. One thing I want to understand from you, Ken, is about the privacy, data privacy of, especially personal data. Should we assume that there is no thing called personal privacy in today's time with whatever, any device, anything that we are using, that is, that is already out there with the people outside? Secondly, even governments are digitizing almost everything. And in that atmosphere, everything that you think is, isolated is actually not isolated. Somewhere or the other, there are linkages where your data is getting. And you see, even big companies, then they say that, your data is secure with so much authentication and all that. Suddenly, one fine morning, you get an email that your data has been leaked. We suspect that your data has been leaked. Go, please, we are not sure, but please change your password. Is that the biggest level of safety that companies can provide? In this backdrop, should we at all think that my life is already in the open and that we should not worry about data privacy? Everybody is in the same situation in the world.
I think the last thing you said, that everybody is in the same situation in the world. The only way that you can beat it, well, actually, you can't. I mean, you would literally have to be born and never, ever, ever, ever access the internet. And if you've been alive the last 20 years, that is darn near impossible. From your parents putting your baby pictures out there to you, a company maybe posting, you got a job promotion. One of the nefarious advantages of AI is to take all of this data, this large language model that we call Earth, and take all of this information and to crunch it down and make all those connections. And now more than ever before. But you're right. If there is any solace, is that because everybody's exposed, nobody's exposed. I mean, you're one in what, 7 billion. And, they're going to use it to market. They're going to use it to track you. But honestly, with all the video, all the plate readers, all the stuff that's out there, most of which, by the way, without your consent or knowledge, until our global leaders, our legislators, our politicians grow a spine. I think Europe is probably way more along than anybody with respect to AI and personal privacy. But the rest of the world, not so much. So I think you're right. I think that we're all out there. So you're going to tell me, yeah, they got my data. Okay. This is the 5th, 6th, 10th, 15th company that has told me that my data has been hacked. What am I going to do about that? And the biggest problem is a lot of times we arm these data companies with the information and we don't even realize it, that you'll get an email, oh, this nice new bright shiny thing that you're going to find so fun or so useful. And by the way, it's free. Go sign up and use it. And they're getting all your information and you're willingly, if not unknowingly, giving them additional information. And people forget, once it's in the internet, I don't care if you go and scrape it 15 minutes after you put it out there, it's out there forever. And it's just one more data point that a large language model being mined by AI can use it for either marketing, advertising, or other governmental or nefarious purposes. But it's out there forever.
Absolutely, it's out there forever. One last thing I want to understand from you, Ken, is about the future of mobility. Now, with the way the world is moving, everything is in your hands, in your mobile phone, within your reach, within your drawing room, within your bedroom. I mean to say, work from home is there, AI is there, everything is there. You don't need to go out. There will be a time where you don't need to go out. Amidst all these times, when companies are working about different modes of transportation, who will travel in the future? Everyone is static in their own zones. How do you see these two things, opposite things, joining something together? Do you think all these vehicles will be gone? There will be self driverless vehicles everywhere, but only very few, and that people will prefer to be because they don't need it. Uber, a lot of people have left owning vehicles because you can use Uber or anything whenever you need it. The same way, future also, how do you see it all happening? The future of transportation, mobility.
In a word, messy. I don't think it's going to be an all or nothing. I think it will be evolution. Part of that's generational. Older folks like me, we love to drive. And in fact, we will fight you as we get older if you're going to take our keys away, even though our physical ability to drive is diminished. Younger people don't want to drive. They hate it. Older folks, we love to drive. We don't want to give it up. What's going to happen, autonomous driving for the individual is still difficult, hard, and an issue. That could be another really 15 to 20 years away, and maybe even 30 years away before it becomes commonplace. You will see it increase through robo-taxis, where we see it in the southwestern part of the United States right now with Waymo and Tesla. We're going to see it with trucks first. That's happening only because it's financial again. There's a lot of financial advantages to autonomous trucking in the millions of dollars. That is happening. Not going to happen. That's happening. As far as the individual, it's going to be a combination of many things. Part of that will be generational. As the old folks lose the ability to drive, being able to be driven autonomously becomes attractive because they don't lose their mobility. For younger folks, the whole drag of driving anywhere for any reason, there'll still be a need to get out, but it will be mitigated, like you said, like with DoorDash and other food delivery systems and Amazon delivery, and all of this will reduce the need to go out. But we're also seeing a resurgence. Take bookstores, for example, here, at least in the United States, independent bookstores are seeing a resurgence of people actually coming out and interacting face-to-face in person, because I don't think you're going to totally get rid of the need to be with other human beings in person. I think the dynamic will change. I think it will be less, but I don't think it will totally go away.
Absolutely, absolutely. In a nutshell, what would you like to tell the world about all things AI, privacy, and the future of mobility?
I think the most important thing of everything we just covered is that information is key. Don't assume that the outlets you've been used to are accurate. We've seen a lot of degradation of that here in the United States with respect to who do you trust. As a result, I do a lot of reading from a lot of different sources. And if it sounds too good to be true, definitely triple check it, because it may not be. Be careful of the narrative. There's a lot of organizations that want to feed you a specific narrative. And here's a key. If you find yourself feeling a certain way about how a narrative is being presented, whether it agrees with your worldview or it doesn't, particularly if it doesn't, verify. Look for other sources to confirm that information, because chances are somebody is trying to get you to feel or act or respond in a certain way, and that is not always in your best interest.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very wise words with someone who has seen the world and someone with a journalistic, mind. Always verify. There is so much to learn from you about all this from Ken, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about you, learn more from you, be associated with what you are doing. What's the best way for them to do so?
The best place to start is my website, which is techmobility.show. Techmobility is one word if you're going to Google it. If you do it in 2 words, you won't find me. You can also reach out to me, Ken, at techmobility.show. Drop me a line. I've got 2 podcasts across 20 different platforms. I'm on the radio here in the United States, up throughout the country. We do the Tech Mobility Show, the Tech Mobility Minute, and Tech Mobility in Focus. Those are all able to reach. And like I said, podcast wherever, and then I'm all over social media. Pick where you like to go. I'm everywhere from Facebook to Substack. You can find me anywhere.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.